So this session is about their term is the organized term is pastoring the community. I want to talk about ministering to the community. I live in a community. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So, and how this relates. I have 5 advanced degrees, and I have a large enough income to live anywhere I want to live, just about. Praise God. But I chose to live in the Black community. Not only in the Black community, one of the poorest Black communities. You know why I did that? Because I got tired of talking about gentrification and then seeing Black people move away from our people. And so when my husband died, I stayed in the place we bought together for a while, and then I decided, I don't want to live with people who have everything. If I'm a minister, then I should be clear about what people need by being with them. So I found a house in Ward 7 in Washington, D.C. Well, it's one of the 2 poorest wards in the city. You can't serve people if you don't love people. And I think that a lot of the problems of pastoring a community is getting past having a job and seeing it as just purely ministry. You know, you're just ministering to people. So I want to start by the way that I learned about ministry is by following the ministry of Jesus. It's found in Luke 4:18. Are you with me? Luke 4:18. I think I'm in the New Living Translation. I can't remember. It says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come." So what we automatically know about ministry, if we are followers of Jesus, it's not just to preach and teach what Jesus preached and taught, but to do what Jesus did. A follower means to do what the person leading you is doing. So what I see from that is that the first role of pastoring or ministering to the community is to find out what is the good news that you're bringing to a bad news situation. You only need good news in a bad news situation. Okay, so we have communities all over the country. Poverty has gone up since COVID because a lot of the COVID relief programs have ended. Child tax credits have ended. Programs that gave really the poorest families $300 extra a month for food, those have ended. So what we had poverty cut in half by helping people. I don't mind people sending Ukraine billions of dollars, but don't neglect the people at home. Right. And I don't mind, taking care of immigrants, but take care of the people at home. And so I think the first thing that pastors have to do is think outside of the 4 walls. You're in the 4 walls to bring people into the, quote, church. But Jesus never had a 4 walls ministry. And so if we're following Jesus, I'm not saying you shouldn't be in the 4 walls. I'm not saying you shouldn't be in a building. I'm saying you have to think outside of the building. Like a diagonal from me is a Baptist church. Next door I've been there 4 years, is a Lutheran church. The Lutheran church, they just stay shut up. They don't do anything in the community. They just come in, they drive in, and they go out. The Black Baptist church, they have a food pantry, they have a children's church, they have this elder ministry. A kid got shot when I first moved in, and they are now walking the streets, taking the streets back. They're still in the building on Sunday and on Wednesday night for Bible study. But Pastor Banks thinks outside of the 4 walls. He thinks of the whole community. They have a church-based picnic out on the lawn and invite the community in. That's how I'm getting to know my neighbors. So first of all, to minister to people, you have to relate to people. So the first is relationships. What are the relationships that you're building? And I'm telling you, Black people are relational. Yeah. We are. You don't give me a business card and you don't look at me, because I'm going to put it in the trash, because I don't remember why I have it in my purse. Okay. I need to make a contact with you. I need to know what we have in common. I need to know how we can help each other. So we are relational people, and I hope we never stop being relational. Get out and go meet people in the neighborhood. Pastors have, and people in ministry have more credibility than I think you know. I deal with business people. I deal with people who are in all kinds of positions in Google and Apple and all these big places. But I will tell you, the people with the most credibility, when I go on Capitol Hill, where I used to work with members of Congress, it's the pastors who can get a meeting. Okay, so we're not using that. So you have the ability to, there's something about pastors that even people who are not church, they think the pastor is honest. They think the pastor is caring. They think the pastor is compassionate. So pastors have to relate, not just to bring in members, but to see the entire community. Okay, in order to do that, you need to know the community. What's in the community? You need to do an assessment of the community. Where are the stores? Where are the businesses? Where are the schools? You know, where's the poverty? Where are the stable parts of the community? Assess the community that you're in, so that you can say literally that I can minister to the community that I know. Where's the police? Where's the police? And when I first moved in, I went over to the police station. I introduced myself. I said, I expect y'all to be protecting my house too. Because I said, when I was in the white community, I didn't have any problem getting protected. So I expect the same over in the Black community. Okay, so this is my card. So we have to know who's in the community, but it starts with relationships. And if your church is shut up during the week, and I understand we're in a post-COVID season, but a lot of churches are back. And if all pastors are doing it, opening the building for choir practice on Saturday, and then Sunday church, and then Wednesday night Bible study, and you're still paying rent on the whole building, you're not serving the community. Something should be happening. The people should know, and I'm going to go to my second point, beyond building relationship. It is maybe, I'm not saying you go door to door, but you know that what other things are going in the community that allow you to meet people in the community. Communities are having potlucks, or their fairs, or we have a neighborhood council that meets every month, once a month on Saturday. That's how I'm getting to know people in the community. Where are the places in the community where you can build relationships outside of your church? Because if all you're doing is pastoring in your church and serving the people in the church, you're not serving the community, and that's not what Jesus did. So one is just building relationships. Remember, we're talking about the Spirit of the Lord is on me. He anointed me to preach good news. Well, preaching does not have to be from the pulpit. Okay, ministering doesn't have to be from the pulpit. Okay, ministry is just God's love in action. Okay. So the second thing is serving. What are the second ways that you can serve the community that won't cost you money? Okay, I'm not trying to get in your budget, because I know churches are struggling too. But does your church have Wi-Fi? Does your church have Wi-Fi where kids can come in and do homework? There are a lot of kids out in the streets. What a safe place for them to come and do homework. Again, remember, you're paying a monthly mortgage. Unless you burn the church's mortgage, you're still paying on that building. So I'm saying, why not allow kids to come in and do homework in the place, or set up, if you can. You could actually go to Microsoft, because you're a church and you're a nonprofit, and get computers set up in your church and have a homework center in your church. So what are all the ways that you can serve? You can serve, the health issues are big in our community, by going to the health department and getting one of those trucks that can test people for hypertension or lupus or strokes or whatever. So these are things that won't even cost you money, where you are serving. A lot of people are hostile to the church today. A lot of people hate the church because they think y'all are stuck up, not mightier than them. Y'all just think y'all the only ones say everybody else is going to hell. Where are we serving? Serving is the way to be God in God's place. And so think about all the ways that you can do that. There are kids now. I just got involved in a rural broadband program because I didn't know that there are 10 million black people in the South who don't have internet. They can't go to a doctor's visit. They can't, I don't know, any of you in the rural area, these are sophisticated, well-oiled people, Pastor Woods. I'm in the wrong crowd, okay. But I'm just thinking about all the ways that communities have health issues. You can invite the police in. Okay, we hate the police till somebody breaks in. Okay, so I ain't hating the police, because when a man showed up on my porch and I'd only been there a month, I didn't call Oprah. Okay, I called the police. Okay, so I'm just saying that think about the thing people needs, public safety. What are the stores like and the food? Now, what I found out in the black community, in the low-income community where I have moved to, the food is lousy at the Safeway. It's not even, I'm a vegetarian. I don't go over there for vegetables. I have to go all the way across town to Whole Foods because I know I'm gonna get fresh vegetables, right? So you have to be an advocate. So I'm going, and they're sick of me, talk to the manager, like, here she come. So this is wrong. So I'm going to call Congress and tell some members of Congress to come down here and try to see the bad food that this food has been here. These same grapes were here Monday, and now it's Saturday. Okay. There's so many things you can do about health fair. How about a job fair that you could do? Again, you have credibility with the mayor. You can use it. You have credibility with private interests. They're looking for good people. You probably have people in your church looking for work. How about hosting a job fair? But the issue is, how can you serve? I haven't even gotten to evangelism yet. Because we start with evangelism, we don't relate, and we don't serve. I'm saying Jesus related with the woman at the well. He didn't say, are you saved yet? Okay. He said, I got some water here that'd be helpful for you to drink, give you full life. Okay. So serving is the second way that we can. So first, you want to be a relational person, and a lot of people have bad attitudes today. A lot of my friends are not saved, and they have horrible things to say about how the church is not connecting to people. I'm on Capitol Hill, and I'm up there telling them how good the church is. They're like, where's your church? The third thing is ministry. So now, I started with relationships, because that's where people are hurting. People after COVID are depressed. They're still isolated. They're scared of each other. There's so much fear in the community. When the pastor shows up and connects people, what I love about Pastor Banks across the street, and I need to hook him up with Reverend Woods if you didn't already know him, is that they hold a potluck and shut down a whole block. So people actually, and the church does all the food, so it's safe. And so people in our neighborhood now have gotten to know each other. So we're not scared of each other. I can walk on the streets as a woman, and I do walk. And me and my niece, who you met out there, walk. Because I know the neighbors now. If I don't know them, I'll go introduce. So churches can help build a kind of safety or a spirit of safety in the community. And I know this sounds like we're putting a lot on pastors, but you are standing in the place of Jesus. You're the only one standing in his place. So people don't have the same commitment or sense of safety about the insurance man or the teacher that they have with you. And so we've got to use that first to relate, then to serve. Okay, then we get to ministry. What are the ways in which you can minister to people who have stopped going to church? Do you understand that people after COVID, this is interesting. For almost 2 years, we learned not to go to church. We learned to have communion in our PJs and with our waffles and orange juice. Okay? So now y'all want us to come back and be all formal, and we have to go figure out where our shoes are. We had to learn to dress again. All that business. So you got to now teach me. Don't judge me. You got to help to understand, why do I need to go to church? I can live stream you and then go watch the Washington Commanders or New York Giants and save a lot of time. So the question is, why? What is it about church that makes it special? That's why the relationships matter most. I go to churches where I know the pastor, or I know the first lady, or I know the choir director. People are looking for honest relationships today. They're not going because it's a big church with a big steeple. They want connection. So you've got to build that first. Then it's got to be a church that serves. A lot of people will come to your church if you served, and then they would think about joining you. They won't think about joining you if you don't serve. Okay, so then there's this ministry. What are all the ways that we can minister to people? When crises occur in the community and somebody's shot or something happens, you could have church, use the church for that. Use the church for crises gatherings. When 9/11 came, my church, my pastor invited all the police in, invited the firemen in. He invited teachers in. He invited community people who will never set foot in your church. But it was a safe place. What are the situations in your community? Right now you have this snatch and grab going on. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I was poor, and I never stole a thing in my life. And every kid who's poor is not stealing. So we don't need to co-sign that. We don't need to co-sign that. So we need to stop co-signing because it's our kids, right? So the black church ought to be standing up and speaking about what is happening to our kids. You need to have maybe a forum to find out, who are these kids who are doing that. Don't dismiss them. There's a cry for something. I don't think people just wake up being stupid and doing stupid things, because they're gonna get hurt. Okay, so how is your church ministering to the pain in our community? How are we ministering to people who are on drugs? How are we ministering to people who are alcoholics? How are we ministering to the pimp and the girl out there selling her body? Are we just ministering to people who look really good and clean? In other words, Jesus was out there with that woman at the well who had 5 husbands. And she was with a man she wasn't even married to. She was shacking up then, okay? So the question is, how do we become a place of ministry and not just a place where you sign up members? We got to think about the way, again, I started with Luke 4:18 as our standard for ministry, right? Spirit of the Lord is upon me, anointed me to bring good news and bad news situation. How about dealing with crime in our community? So we met with our police chief because we're sick of it. I'm not excusing it. Look, I got 5 cameras. How much safer can I be and whatever? I don't want to be a prisoner in my house. So black people have got to start speaking out about crime, because the people who need it the most are us, and who's getting killed first is us. Okay? So y'all need, and I need, good quality police. We need to be meeting with the police chief saying, we pay your taxes, we pay your salary through our taxes. Since you work for us, let's talk about the kind of job we need you to do. They work for you. Okay, so you got to talk about how are all the ways in which the church becomes a ministry center for the pain of the community, whether it is crime or whether it's violence or whether it's white supremacists. We had white supremacists downtown Washington, D.C. So I went and talked to some of these white evangelicals and said, these people are in your church. What are you doing about that? That is nowhere in the gospel. So you've got to begin to build relationships. I started with relationships, but what are ways that you can minister to the pain? Mental health is a major problem in the black community right now. I know my family we were crazy growing up, but we didn't know we had mental health issues. Okay, but people today sure enough have them. People today have, every day there's a mass shooting. There are 500 already this year. People are afraid to turn on the television because you don't know who shot who did what to whom. It's overwhelming. The pandemic itself was overwhelming. We lost 7 million people. Churches lost people. So we're still hurting from that. There's still a lamenting going on. Churches should have mental health screenings. We should take away the stigma of seeing a therapist. Okay. We have made it a problem for people to see a therapist. So we were inviting in. We had a gathering on gun violence, and we brought in psychiatrists, black psychiatrists. People were so glad for that. If the whole body, if the brain is in the body and the brain is sick, and I can't, you say it's a problem if I go see about my brain, but if my heart hurts, it's okay to see a cardiologist? That does not make sense. So the whole body has got to be healed. So I would like to see more black pastors call in and ministry people call in mental health specialists and talk about issues like depression. We have a problem with that. And so because if the church does not speak to the pain of the people will stay away from the church because they're like, why go to church if I can't? I could go to a conference, the Jack and Jills or the AKAs or the Alphas, and get good information. So the church has got to make itself more necessary for people, not to complain about people not coming back, but make it necessary for me to be in that building. So does that make sense to you? And then lastly, I would say empowering. Pastors need to stop sitting on their power. You're sitting on it. And what am I saying? You have authority that you're not using. There's no member of the city council knowing that you have, I don't care if you have 5 people in your church, you have 5 voters. If you have 20 people, the average black church is not more than 100 people. That's 100 votes. You could own the school board. School board races are won by less than 2,000 votes. And now people are banning books. We're whining about it when we could go own the seat on the school board and decide whether we're banning books or not. So we need to stop sitting on our power and go use it. You should know the governor of your state. And I'll talk to you about how to get to them, okay, in a minute. You should know the member of Congress who serves you. Everybody in your church, you should have a civic lesson in your church. People should know the member of Congress. You should invite them in. You voted for them. That would be like hiring somebody and never telling them what to do. You hire these people and you don't tell them what to do. You hire the police chief, you hire the mayor, you hire members of Congress, and then you ignore them until they screw up. I give people a job description. I don't have a big organization, but everybody's got a job description, and everybody's accountable for doing their work. So I would like to see more pastors visiting members of Congress. I worked on Capitol Hill, and I was up there yesterday, and let me tell you what I saw. So I got invited by a Republican friend, a good friend who I'm working with on the prayer breakfast, and I had never been in the Republican club. I've been in the Democratic club. I'm a Democrat. And I mean, I'm a pro-life, pro-traditional marriage Democrat who's homeless in my party. That's who I am. So I go in there. I've never been in there. It is really beautiful. It's very quiet. It's very posh. You can tell there's a lot of money in there. So I'm just listening, and I hear one person who's not a member. All the members wear a label so you know who's a member. And our friend over here, she knows. Um, and one lobbyist, I'm in the food line, I'm in the buffet line, but I'm watching, because that's what I do. And he says, one guy says to the other, the lobbyist says to the member, thank you for voting for blah, 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 blah. He says, and we'll be supporting you. So if you're not in that setting, if you're not where the power is happening, nobody has to pay you any attention. So we've got to show up to make ourselves so necessary nobody can ignore the black vote. And it starts with the pastor. You don't have to, let me just break this down. This is IRS safe, what I'm telling you about. IRS puts out a chart, and it's on my website under turnoutsunday.com. You can go on right now, and one of the charts has the do's and don'ts of IRS. So stop selling this nonsense that you'll lose your tax exemption. White pastors are not doing that. They're out there organizing, registering, mobilizing, turning out, and we're over here mumbling about we'll lose our tax exemption. The only thing you can't do is tell people how to vote and put their names on something that belonged to the church. That's it. You can do anything else. So you should be hosting candidate forums. Bring the candidates that you voted for in November. Now it's almost a year. Tell them, ask them, what did they do on criminal justice reform? What did they do about the school? What did they do about health care? What did they do about safe streets? In other words, if you don't hold them accountable, they don't even think you matter. They'll talk good. They'll talk good at election time. Now, they'll be back in 24, but they'll ignore you all of 23 because y'all ignoring them. Okay? So I'm saying, here's how I start out when I don't know anybody. And the way I get to know people is I think of myself as a servant leader. So I always think about whatever I'm doing, I'm ministering. I don't have to have a big title. I don't have to know anybody. I go up to a person and I say, first of all, I do my homework. So I find out, what do they like? What do they like that I like? They like health care? I'm going to talk to them about that. They want to talk about, I don't know, criminal justice reform. So I do my homework first. Then I ask to see somebody. Now, most of the time, if you don't know a member of Congress, you probably should take 3 or 4 pastors together. There is no way they will ever ignore a group of pastors. They're scared of y'all because they know y'all have members who vote. Stop sitting on your power. Use your power. Okay? And now I'll just tell you this. This is how sad it is when pastors don't do what they're supposed to do, go into all the world and make disciples of everybody. Okay? This is what happens. So you have 6 states, Florida, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, and Texas. Listen to this. When I looked at the research, what it showed is that the percentage that former President Trump won by in 2016 was way less than the unregistered black vote in all of those places. And I can tell you, if you think I'm kidding, that it's embarrassing when I tell pastors what the numbers are. That I have a little chart here. Okay, so watch this. So in Florida, he only won by 112,000 votes. There are 3 million people in Florida, black people in Florida, and there are 336 unregistered. Is that a bigger number than 112? Okay, well, that's not so bad. Let's watch Georgia. Now, we had a problem in Georgia, right? He only won by 211,000. There are 3,000 black people in Georgia. 3 million, I'm sorry, 3 million. Those are million. The unregistered black for 350,000. Okay, but it's going to make you sick when I tell you about Michigan. So Michigan, he only won by 11,000. This is census data. I didn't make this up. And there are 1.4 million black people in Michigan, the whole state. He won by less than 11,000. There are 240,000 unregistered black people in Michigan. Okay, I'm gonna make you sicker. Pennsylvania, he won by 44,000. There are 227,000 unregistered black people. But Texas floored me. This is the one I couldn't figure out. I told Freddie Haynes this. I said, you got to check this out. He won by 204,000. That feels like a lot. There are 3 million black people in Texas. Guess how many unregistered black people there are out of the 3 million? 758,000. Quit talking about what other people are not doing for us. And the people who are not registered to vote are poor and they're young. They're poor and they're young, right? They're poor people, and we middle-class black people, thank you. Middle-class black people, thank you. Instead of moving toward our people, I have a pretty loud voice unless you need to record it. Oh, okay. Okay. It's not my fault, I'm short. I could do, okay. Okay. So, do you understand what I'm saying? That this is within our power? But why are people not registering to vote? Let me tell you why. You want to know why? Because they do not see the relationship between their vote and their lives, and we're not telling them. That's voter education. That's our responsibility. Every church. What's the relationship between my vote and my school, my HBCU getting more money, or me getting a job? In other words, stop making people feel guilty about not voting. When they voted in 2020 after George Floyd was killed, and we didn't get voting rights. They went out and they mobilized, and then we did not get George Floyd crime bill. So they're saying, why vote? And I'm saying, let me tell you why vote. Why vote? Because we won more than they're telling us. I don't even have the list before me, but COVID relief came because black people voted, because we had enough votes in the Senate with Voronoi in Georgia for Kamala Harris to go up there and cast the deciding vote. That's why you vote. We got HBCU support that we never would have had, because we could cast that deciding vote. You got to tell them that. We got now insulin at $35 versus $2,000 a month. We have over-the-counter hearing aids. Do you think seniors in your church need to hear about this? So, and I will send you the list, Pastor. We have responsibility to use our power and to share with other people why they're relevant, why they're important. Everybody else knows we're powerful, and I'm going to close with this, and we'll just talk a little bit about whatever you want to talk about. Is we as a people remind me of the story of Rahab. Rahab says to them after the spies, left, he says, we already know that God's already given you the land. We knew that the soles of your shoes did not wear out all through the wilderness. But they're afraid to go get the promised land, and the people there are afraid they're going to show up. We're afraid to go get what God has already given us. Most of this you can do sitting in your living room at your computer. You don't even have to get up out your chair. So I'm not trying to tax nobody. I'm saying do what you can do from where you are. I don't want to hear another conversation about white racism if we're not doing what we want to do and need to be doing as a people. White people are not keeping me from buying black, helping our black people, giving to black colleges, sending money to NACP, sending money to the Urban League. No, nobody comes into my house and tells me who to send money to. So I'm saying let's use our power that God has already given us. Stop praying for what you already have. That's how you minister and how you pastor a community. Now remember, I've not even gotten to evangelism. All of that is evangelism. Everything I talked about. Caring, ministry, relating, connecting, being compassionate, being there when people need you. All of that is evangelism. So let me find out in the few minutes we have if there are any questions or anything. You all want to talk about that. I didn't talk about it. I never been in the black group that's so quiet. Y'all scaring me. Y'all scaring me. Y'all too educated. Whatever. I'm not talking to that crowd. I'm gonna talk over here. Come, what you got? Yeah. You know, they're real sophisticated. You may want to come closer to over here.
Yeah, you mentioned the you meant of assessing the community to
Yes.
find out the needs. What does that look like? What are some ways that we can practically?
So you go to the city council and you go to the mayor's office and they can give you like the population, the poverty, the elderly. You can even get voting. Okay. By the way, pastors, you can find out who's been purged from your voting rolls by calling the Board of Election in your city. You should be doing that because half y'all probably been purged, and the people in your churches too. But okay, that's how you do an assessment by just go use the resources you have. And you should know who's in your community. Where are the people with money? Where are the businesses that you can partner with to help with your after-school program or your senior program? Y'all know how to beg for the tithe and offering. Let's go get that money. Get that. That's our money too. Any other questions? I'm just, I love pastors. I'm just kidding. Anything else? Yeah, I asked a question. Yes.
Thank you for another powerful presentation. I was very challenged by your opening statement about incarnational ministry and moving into the community. That challenged me right there. But listening to you this morning.
Oh, I was scared. Yeah. But then I just said, okay, Jesus, if you're here, I ain't scared. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not scared anymore.
Listening to you this morning, I know that it seems to me that you're very intentional about your language. And you mentioned in your second point about service. And in your third point, you mentioned ministry. Typically, I have used them. Service and ministry have been the same for me, but it's like you were making a differentiation between service and ministry, and I was wondering if you could expound on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think of service as really there's some tangible needs. People are hungry. That might minister to them, but if they need real food, if they got no bread, that's serving. They have no milk. The babies are hungry. That's service, right? I got to find out if some of our seniors have not been cared for. If there's a nursing home in the area, are we connecting with what they need? If there's some elderly poor people in the community, how are we meeting their tangible human needs? That's service. Kids need tutoring because they're not doing well in school. And there's some retired teachers in the school. Putting them together, that's service. It's mentoring to a need, but it's giving what they need. It's interesting that if you think about Jesus turning out the temple, right? I always thought I used to ask myself, well, why didn't he if poor people didn't have money for their sacrifice, why didn't he just write a check for all of them? He had everything. He didn't write a check, he came himself. So there's a time when you do both. But you got to find out if a man and a woman are hungry, they're not going to listen to your ministry. I got to get their attention. Kids come to school hungry, they're not going to learn anything. Churches ought to be adopting schools. Now, if you guys adopted schools and found out what the reading scores are and find out what the teaching is, schools would change. We have given up on poor kids in public schools. My mother got to the 8th grade, and she probably didn't know half of what they were talking about. She's sitting in the back of the class. And she made me sit down at the kitchen table and read to her what I had just studied in civics class. Could she help me with my homework? No, but she made sure I did it. So I'm just saying, but your question was about service, tangible needs. Then you minister to my spirit, my soul. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And thank you for your powerful presentations. Your comments about moving into the community are very powerful ones. There's an organization in Chicago where they advocate and actually have a training program for churches to help encourage pastors to move back into the community and live in the community, not just have a church there, but live there. My challenge or question is, we are a lower income black church in a high income white community.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what you've shared about, working with politicians, we understand that.
Right.
But we're challenged in building these relationships with our white neighbors. I'm saying neighbors in the sense of our church being in the neighborhood.
You said you're challenged? I don't understand the word challenge.
We are finding it difficult we've had the community picnics right there on our church parking lot, or on the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
We've done those types of things. And in fact, we just had one for Father's Day this summer, and there was little attraction. It was intended for the community to reach out to, do the promotion in the community. It was just us. What do you, and from your experience, do you have any recommendations on how to break down those barriers? We have. And the pastor and I, we've gone to the community council meetings. We started doing that, neighborhood council meetings. I'm sorry.
Right.
And so we're trying to make efforts, but it's been the church has been there for 15, 20 years, and it's been a tremendous.
So my specialty is white people. I have a PhD in knowing white people. Because you cannot be successful as a black American without knowing everything there is to know about white people. So thank you for asking me that question. Okay. So here's how you have to start. People do not relate to groups. They relate to people. I wouldn't even have anything or send out anything. When I moved into that neighborhood, I'm in a black community, right? I went and met and introduced myself because I bought a fairly new house, a renovated house, and so I'm the new person. By the way, there were 100 white people trying to get that house. And so interesting that so many people were trying to get the house because there are not that many houses in that area. It's a middle class / poor working neighborhood 3 miles from the U.S. Capitol. And I couldn't find a house over there until this house, okay? And so when I went to look for the house, they were at least 70 to 80 people, all in, the Sunday thing where you go in and look at the house. So I knew I didn't have a chance because, I got widow's mite and they got real money, okay? And so I would say to you that what I know about pastors, you all know how to relate to people. I would go to the people. They're neighbors near you, and they probably are hurting. They have their own struggles. They're probably seeing a therapist or whatever, okay? They got stuff in their house. Somebody's on fentanyl, somebody's on whatever. We act like people are all doing well just because they're not our color. I deal with white people every day. They're like, really? They call me? I'm like, really? You're white. You shouldn't have any problem. I say, well, we do have problems. Okay. But because I treat them just like people. They're just like us. So I would go to a person because they attract themselves. If I was trying to build a multicultural church, I wouldn't do it with all black pastors. My church is multicultural. That's a whole nother story, okay? I told my pastor, look, I pass a whole lot of good black churches before I get to you, so you better preach. So, he laughs at us. It's 50% black and 40% white. Yes, ma'am.
Spanish.
Yes, ma'am.
I am living in a neighborhood what people would say is all Spanish. In the height of the pandemic, I get up and walk every morning. And I was the only person that was walking. And there was a lot of cars, vehicle parked against people, block their driveway, a lot of Spanish. But guess what happened? There were other few blacks. We need to start connecting with the Spanish because the Spanish, they are taking over. I used to be in the hotel industry. 95% is Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, none at all. My granddaughter, she loves Spanish. But the point is that I am walking, I see three, I think it was Spanish. One of them was smoking, and I stopped and I talked to them, and I said, come here, why are you smoking? And they were very decent, because I am near high school, Bladensburg High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to them, and they respect me, they talk with me. And I said, are you Spanish? No, I'm from Afghanistan. I said, are you Spanish? No, I'm from Afghanistan. You know, the kids, them cling up with their own nation, but we need to start working with Spanish because Spanish is the majority. Yesterday morning, I was walking 6 babies, 2 adults, Spanish. So we need, and some of them speak English and speak it very good. They will tell you that, oh no, I don't speak English. I visit my neighbor,
Yeah.
and next door, dog. The dog playing. These people have these dogs. They're playing, and I lose my balance and fall on my fat butt. So I say, okay, I'm going to look out for the neighbor. And there it is. I look out for that neighbor 2 days after. And this man coming out to me, Spanish, smiling. I said, your dog. The man said, I don't speak English. The man smiled and the man speak to me good in English. So we need to start communicate more with the Spanish because black people not having babies.
Do you mind if I respond to
Yes,
your point?
please
Okay.
respond.
Yeah, I think she's absolutely correct, but they're not taking over, we're letting go.
Well, I
There's a big, no, I agree with you that they are growing in number. They're not growing in political power.
know that. I know.
Okay. They're growing in economic power. But they're not taking over. We have let go. And we need to take it back.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm from Jamaica,
Okay.
and I travel back and from.
Yeah. Right.
We need to start working with the Spanish.
Well, we need to work with all groups, but thank you for that.
Groups,
Yeah.
All groups, just like how I think
Okay.
these 3 Spanish,
Okay.
they're from Afghanistan.
So, yeah, I'm not-
Spanish.
thank you.
All mix them up.
I'm not sure what the time is. Do you have a question? I'm sorry? Okay, so somebody else have a question? You do? Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you. You started your presentation today, this morning, during this session, ministering in the community, and my ears picked up. Could you speak to pastors, I'm a pastor, and us as members regarding the whole community of churches ministering to the community? What, as pastors, we need to be able to engage our church members in doing with our community, and how we need to not try to do everything ourselves,
Right.
but involving the whole membership, and so that everybody's involved in membership. I'm not sure what.
No, I think your point is well taken. The role, as I understand it, Pastor, of pastors is to equip the church, the saints, for the work of ministry, not to do all the ministry themselves. So when I say pastors go out, but you can't point people to where they need to go, you have to lead them. Okay. So when I talk, and I think your point's well taken, about pastors connecting in the community. When our pastor was teaching us how to evangelize in Washington, D.C., he went with us. Because some of us were scared to go. This is when I was at church way back. So I think the role of the pastor is to show the people, model to the people what you want the people to do. But for example, pastors, a lot of pastors aren't engaged in prayer. They got Annie and her sister on Wednesday night, and she 80 and she 81. Okay, it's okay, and you wonder why the church is not showing up for the prayer time, because the pastor is not there. Our pastor leads our prayer, and so we consider that prayer time one of the most important. Pastors have so much influence, and I started out, and I'm going to say it again, y'all sit down to power. I'm asking y'all today, I want all the pastors in the house just to stand up right now. Stand up. Stand up. Okay. Stand up. Okay. Okay. So now you just gotten up off your power, so you can sit back down. Okay. No, that's not my point. I'm saying, yeah, keep standing up and showing people what it would look like to do what Jesus said in Luke 4:18, to bring good news to the hurting and the oppressed, and set at liberty those who are vulnerable, who have no way to go and no way out. That's really what this time is about. I hope this has been helpful. Okay, God bless you.